It is time for my way too early Clemson football 2026. How much longer can I make this title 2026 prediction? And if I'm laughing already, for those of you who joined me on the original live stream, I started a live stream and I started a live stream and I didn't have one of my cables hooked up, so no one could hear me. No one could hear me. So, everyone in the live chat, please give me a thumbs up to let me know that you are you can actually hear me. Um, but anyway, welcome to the channel. If you're in this snow, I hope you're being safe. I hope you're having fun. We're actually getting snow. How fun is that? We're actually getting snow. Roger Parks says he can't see me. Can't see you. Can everyone see me? Just let me know that you can see me and hear me fine. We can hear you this time. Yes, finally. All right. So if no one can see me, let me know, but you can. Fantastic. Fantastic. We got you. All right. So listen, folks, if you love Clemson football, I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll pass along to your friends and neighbors. I'm having to turn off the chat now that I know that you can hear me and see me, but most of all, hear me. So I can pay attention. But anyway, I hope you'll subscribe. It is free. I'm getting close to 10,000 subscribers. So if you want to push me over that mark or up to that mark and over, I hope you will subscribe, pass it along as well. I want to say a special thank you to people like Roger Parks and Big John Setton, Chase Henderson, Parker Henderson, Grafnar, John Thomas, and so many more. Huffer Billy Paul, a bunch of people. And if I missed your name, please forgive me. I'm just naming these off the top of my head who are members on a monthly basis. Thank you for supporting the channel. I am independent, so it does help. Thank you so much. I also want to send out a special thanks to Section 103. They dropped their Clemson collection on December 3rd, and they reached out to me beforehand, and they were like, hey, would you like to tell your Clemson viewers about this Clemson collection? I was like, well, yeah. And so if you go to the link below this video, section103.com, you are going to find unbelievable designs for everyone, whether it's for yourself, your wife, your girlfriend, hopefully not in that order, maybe your kids, niece, nephew, whatever. I'm telling you, you're absolutely going to love these designs based on Clemson traditions that we all love, like Howard's Rock, Two Right Turns, Clemson House, and so much more. I'm wearing one of the hats today. I've from time to time, I'll wear one of the polos, and I'm telling you, I always get a ton of compliments like, dude, that is awesome. So use the one-time use promo code Tigers10. That's also below this video for 10% off your order. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you the secret. Go over there and load up and then use that 10% off. You will thank me. So I want to tell Section 103, I really do appreciate you sponsoring the show. Let's dive right in. Okay, a lot's going to change between now. I mean, tomorrow will be February if you're watching this on the live stream right now. But it'll be February, and I can't believe it. Time is flying by. But we know after the spring game what is going to happen. Time is going to slow like molasses if I poured it out there in the snow right now. It's just, I don't care how many times I've been through it. It's going to happen, and I'm going to be miserable. And so anyway, it's one of those experiences that it never gets any easier, but the football season will be right around the corner. And the very first game is LSU. Now, before I talk about the LSU game, I want to just quickly summarize some things that are majorly going to impact this Clemson football season. All right. First off, we're losing a lot of players. We're losing players like TJ Parker, Antonio Williams, Peter Woods, Avion Terrell, just to name a few. We're losing them to the NFL. All right. Now, no matter your feelings on Cade, we're losing a 3-year starter. And so now we're moving on to another quarterback. It's going to be Christopher Vizina. And I'll talk more about him in just a second. Then we lost guys to the transfer portal. Guys like Ricardo Jones. Just to jog your memory, that guy had 6 interceptions on the season, and He was the one that had the pick six against Linares Sellers to ice the Clemson versus South Carolina rivalry game. That's a big deal. He's gone. Shelton Lewis, gone. Khalil Barnes is now a Georgia Bulldog. And then many more are gone. On the other hand, you're just losing guys to eligibility, right? So those like Khalil Barnes and Ricardo Jones, those guys, you lost them in the transfer portal. These guys, these other guys you're losing due to eligibility. Now we have that. All right. Now let's talk about the players that we're bringing in. We brought in 10 players? Well, once Luke Fraley left, almost every one of them were on the defensive side of the football. And it's going to be interesting to see how they gel together. It's going to be interesting to see how Elliott Washington plays at the corner position, DB position. And just to see how some of these guys like Marcus Strong will perform on the interior of the line. Of course, bringing in the speedster Chris Johnson's going to be really interesting as well, with Gideon Davidson, David Easy, and then Haynes and Green. Just seeing how they're going to play this year, and if it creates some issues, we'll see there. And again, this is not a full Clemson rundown whatsoever. I'm skimming over this, but we do have to talk about the quarterback position. There's a lot of people who believes that we're totally fine at quarterback. I don't feel comfortable with our quarterback situation, and I have not felt comfortable with our quarterback situation in a very, very long time. We're no longer developing quarterbacks, and that's an issue. When I look at Christopher Vizina, I see a guy who is a tall, athletic dude. You'll see him throw some really solid passes. This is not a shot at him. He came to Clemson to be developed. I don't believe that he's been developed. And we know that Chad Morris has taken over the offense. We know Chad Morris, and I'll leave it at that. And he said, my job is to develop these quarterbacks. Here's the problem. You have a guy who's been sitting on the bench for 3 years, and it's going to be tough to fix in this season what needs to be fixed, especially when your first game is LSU and 3 or 4 games later, you're playing Miami, a team that just got out of the national championship and has done very well in the transfer portal. They recruit very well. This could be a lot for him. We know the whispers about Chris Denson and bringing him in. We know the loyalty that Dabo has with the quarterbacks. We'll see Tate Reynolds. A lot of people are believing. I even watched Scott Fisher talk about our soul, where Scott Fisher, the guy, he's a really big YouTuber, talks about college football, did a thing on Tate Reynolds. A lot of people believes that he has a big upside, and I hope so. Folks, I want to make this very, very, very clear. I don't wish any ill will on Clemson. I just have a hard time. I have a hard time playing the game of where I'm overlooking and overlooking and overlooking and giving the benefit of the doubt and giving the benefit of the doubt and giving the benefit of the doubt. With really good football teams, you don't have to do that. And there's too many benefits of the doubt. And I hope this doesn't happen, or I hope that this comes to pass. Going on with Clemson on both sides of the football. Chad Morris, I believe that our offense will be better because of him. I do believe it will be better because of him. But how innovative will it be? I believe that it was a convenient hire. No shot at Chad Morris. If I was Chad Morris, I heard that, I'd be like, what a jerk. I don't mean that I'm just saying, I don't mean it as a shot at you. I'm just saying it does not seem like the move that Clemson needs where we're at right now. We will see. I hope I'm wrong. Did y'all hear me say that? I hope I'm wrong. I hope Christopher Vizina comes in and throws for 4,000 yards next year and is up for the Heisman Trophy and makes me eat crow. Listen, folks, I'll eat a whole buffet of crow. I'll gladly do that. Football logic says I won't. Forget my logic. Football logic and watching it for years and what works and what doesn't says I won't. Let's talk about the defense. Tom Allen in year 2 with a bunch of new guys in here, losing guys to the draft, losing guys to the portal, losing guys because of eligibility. And you bring in some solid players here and there. And then, of course, you have Will Helt, who's unbelievable. Sammy Brown is that guy. He really, really is. He is that guy. With that said, I think that the defense could be a little better, but I don't see it being much better. Too many new people, too many key players gone. And Clemson is new to the transfer portal game, and that is not a slight at Clemson. That is not a negative or a positive comment. I'm just saying you have to know how to navigate getting a culture together with guys whose boxes are not unpacked. I mean, they still have boxes that has tape on it with things in it. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, and one of the other things that I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to talk about the games, but I have to set this up before I talk about the games. I have to. Just please hang with me. Clemson just went 7-6 with one of, if not the most productive returning roster in all of college football. Most of that coaching staff is still in place that gave you a 7-6 football team, lost your bowl game to a Penn State team who had an interim coach who was bleeding players, and they were held together by duct tape and prayers, and they beat you by 12 points. Now you have a less experienced roster. You don't know completely how to navigate the transfer portal game. Most of your guys on that sideline, there's guys on Clemson's sideline who's never coached outside of Clemson, ever. Clemson's where they played ball. They went to the NFL. They came back. They're now at Clemson. Then you have other guys who this is the biggest level job they've ever had in their entire life. They were a high school coach before. One of them was fired. That coaching staff with that talent from last year, that experience from last year, went 7-6, and now they're with this new group. It's very difficult to be legitimately, logically hopeful. Forget my opinions on Clemson. Forget that I'm a Clemson fan who calls them out. Let's just act like we were talking about ABC school. With all the things I just laid out, anyone who got their emotions out of the way and who was not trying to be just a jerk or be optimistic, neither one, just put all of that away. It doesn't look good. So let's dive in. The very first game of the year, September the 5th, against LSU. Now, there's a lot of people who has opinions on Lane Kiffin and why. Someone asked me the other day, what did Lane Kiffin ever do to you? I'm not taking pot shots at Lane. But Lane has set up a reputation for himself. Ask Tennessee fans how they feel about him. Ask Southern Cal fans how they feel about him. Ask Ole Miss fans how they feel about him. Now, Ole Miss, and I'm not saying all of their fan base, but they played the Lane Kiffin game, and then when Lane decided to take the job at LSU, they all of a sudden want to act like Lane's the Antichrist. And meanwhile, their coach now has two schools reporting that they were tampering with players. So don't you give me that about Lane. I'm sorry. And by the way, the only reason the Ole Miss is relevant is because of Lane Kiffin. In 5 seasons, he gave them 4 10-plus win seasons. I bring that up all the time because the prior 49 years before he got there, they had 3. Lane Kiffin was their success, and now he's at LSU. And again, I'm not taking pot shots of Lane Kiffin. I actually am entertained by the guy. I really am. And I believe he is one of the best football schemers in all of college football. When Lane sticks to scheming, you got a problem, pal. And Clemson has a problem on September the 5th. LSU has the number 1 transfer portal class led by Sam Leavitt. And I'll tell you straight up, I would feel a little better about our football season. No offense to Christopher Vizina. He came to Clemson to be developed by D1 coaches, and they haven't developed him just like they haven't developed other players on this team. And unless you come to Clemson ready to play right out of the box, kind of like Sammy Brown or TJ Moore or Wesco, you're probably not going to get too much better at Clemson. And that is not my opinion. That has been proven over the past 5 years. I would feel better if Sam Leavitt was on the sideline for Clemson. Sam Leavitt can play. They have the number 1 transfer portal class. They already had a bunch of talent. They do have a top 12, top 11, according to 247 Sports, high school recruiting class, locking up Lamar Brown, one of the most talented players overall. He's a freak. He's a freak athlete. But to quote Steve Spurrier, LSU, or it was something along this line, that you can have a team full of talent and still lose. LSU fans should know that. I believe LSU should probably have 2 or 3 more national championships than what they do already, based on the talent they've had over the past 25 years. So now they have a guy who can scheme, and Clemson has to play him. Lane Kiffin is taking shots at Clemson, especially in 2024. Like, what are they doing in the college football playoff? This is going to be at night in Baton Rouge. I believe Lane Kiffin humiliates Clemson. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Clemson does not lose their 4th consecutive season opener. I hope not. I hope that's what I try to get across to everybody. I don't hope this stuff comes true. But when I start to go, well, maybe it'll work out, my thinking brain starts going, you know better, Brian. Hey, Brian, while you're thinking that, how about you go turn on your gas stove, make sure that the flame is blue, and just lay your hand on top of it, Brian. While you're having good ideas, just go ahead and do that. But don't be shocked when you get burned. I just don't see it. I think there was a way too early line for the Clemson LSU game. Clemson's already a 10.5 point favorite. I think that is generous. I think if Clemson can walk out of Baton Rouge with a 10 or 11 point loss, that would be a win. And you know me, losing is not winning for me. So I think that LSU is a definite loss. I think they're going to spank Clemson. I think Kiffin is going to go out of his way to try to humiliate this team. And I think that the following week when Clemson plays Georgia Southern, you thought that Clemson was hungover after this LSU loss and then going into Troy, and you thought that yes, Clemson had national championship aspirations in the 25 season. People thought they were going to do that. This year, they're not going to do that. But I'm telling you, I think there's going to be such a level of dejection that they are going to be asleep at the wheel when they play Georgia Southern the following week. I see LSU as a definite loss for Clemson. There's just too much working on the sideline in the field for the Bayou Bengals versus our Clemson Tigers. Next up, let's take a look at Clemson's schedule here. Didn't even show this, but everyone knows that the very first game is LSU. I mentioned this just a second ago. I think according to what goes on on September the 5th, it's majorly going to impact Clemson playing against Georgia Southern. I would not be shocked if they were just like, especially if it's a rout, like a good old fashioned butt beating. I would not be shocked if Georgia Southern hung around. I wouldn't. It's very feasible for me, but I think that Clemson beats Georgia Southern. They'd be 1-1 on the season, and maybe just try to build something good off of that. Next up, you're going to play against Bill Belichick and North Carolina. That was one of the best games Clemson played all season. Dabo could have ran the score up on Bill Belichick, and out of respect, he didn't. He stopped himself. He wasn't like some people I know who will call a timeout with 3 seconds remaining to run the score up in a game. But I think North Carolina, they did improve as the season went on. But I think North Carolina is still going to have their problems. I lean towards Clemson winning this ball game unless there's massive improvement by North Carolina. I know they pulled some players out of the transfer portal. Listen, folks, everyone, including Clemson now, is pulling players out of the transfer portal. Once and for all, using the portal does not make you competitive. Adequately using the portal plus really good coaching, that's what works. That's what works. And so I just see Clemson winning this ball game. September the 25th, Clemson goes to Cal Berkeley. Yeah, on a Friday night, 6 days after the North Carolina game. They go to the Bay Area, and they're going to play Tosh Lapoy. I think I'm saying that correct. He's the former defensive coordinator at Oregon. Ron Rivera, former Carolina Panthers head coach, is now the GM out there. And he hired Tosh Lapoy. I believe he played at Cal Berkeley. And they're hoping for the same results that Vanderbilt got out of Clark Lee. Now, their quarterback, I'm not even going to make an attempt to pronounce his name, but this guy was the top recruit in the ACC in the 2025 recruiting class. And I think that was according to Phil Steele. The guy came out and absolutely put on a clinic. Looked unbelievable. Looked incredible. They've had some gets out of the transfer portal that seems pretty doggone good. I believe Clemson loses at Cal. I believe that Tosh Lapoy is going to bring this team together. He's going to take the opportunity to play the brand Clemson that was built up many years ago, 10, 12, 13 years ago, to humiliate the new brand, but everyone will see Cal as beating Clemson. The Clemson of 16 and the Clemson of 18. That is what people are still pandering to their teams. Hey, we can go beat Clemson. And so I think that Clemson is going to struggle offensively. And I want to pause here. I think they're going to struggle offensively. I think they're going to struggle to protect the quarterback. I think that the quarterback is going to struggle to make the correct reads. And yes, you have Moore. And yes, you have Wesco. Yes, you have Bettencourt if you'll use him. We saw Tyler Brown have drops in the Penn State game. Maybe they get the ball to him. But folks, I am telling you, I see Vizina for several reasons struggling. And I think they're going to struggle in this game, and I see Cal beating them. Clemson will be 2-2 at that point, 1-1 in the conference. And then on October 3rd, they'll have an extra day to prepare, but they will play Miami, a team that just got out of the national championship in a thriller. And I'll tell you this, Cristobal did a really good job on that stretch. Now, if you're not paying attention and you don't know this, I want to let you know straight up, the quarterback at Duke and the wide receiver at Duke that absolutely terrorized us and beat us at Clemson. And I'm talking about Darian Mensah, and I'm talking about Barkate. He's the white dude, the receiver that transferred out of Harvard to there. They're now at Miami. And Mensah can play football. Mensah is a very good quarterback. They're paying him he was making a lot of money to play at Duke, re-signed with Duke. Miami comes calling his transfer portal, and then behind closed doors, Duke and Mensah settle, as well as I believe with Barkade as well. With that said, I believe that Miami is going to be absolutely loaded this year, and I believe Miami is going to come into Death Valley, and they're going to beat the crap out of Clemson. They have too much star power across the board. Again, we're at the place to where we do have a star here and there on Clemson's football team. Sammy Brown, Will Helt, Moore, Wesco. Notice I say Bettencourt if they'll use him. And then from there, you have guys who show promise and then a ton of question marks. Then on top of that, we have the development issue. We have the teaching, developing players to be more reactive versus having to stop and think. We've been out-schemed. I know Morris is different, and I've already said I think he's going to provide a better offense for us, but there's just too much working against Clemson. Miami has a lot working in its favor. I think Miami comes to Death Valley and embarrasses the Tigers. And arguably, you have LSU and Miami. Those are the two toughest games of the season, hands down, without a question. So at this point, I'm seeing Clemson 2-3, 1-2 in the conference, with wins against Georgia Southern and North Carolina. On the 10th, you'll have an open date. So Clemson will lick their wounds. They'll turn around and they'll play Charleston Southern. The last time Charleston Southern came to Clemson, in the first half, Charleston Southern was actually winning. But things have changed. I'm not really going to base too much on that. Clemson wins against Charleston Southern. They'll be 3-3 on the season, 1-2 in the conference. And then they're going to play, I think, one of the most interesting teams of all of college football. On October the 24th, Virginia Tech comes to Clemson. Now, if you watch my channel for a while, you know that I have critiqued James Franklin at Penn State. And it's not because I have a picture of James Franklin up on my wall over here and I use it as a dartboard. It's because James Franklin was at Penn State for a very long time with some unbelievable players. He would win 10 ball games, but he could not get them over the hump. And I said, I don't believe he's the guy to get you to the national championship. He was one game away, year 4 list. Yep. And he got fired this year for blowing it against a bunch of really good teams. And he was much like Clemson, had a ton of talent and experience coming back. I mean, a ton. But where James Franklin shines is in the very role that he is in. We saw what he did at Vanderbilt. Up until Clark Lee got there, Vanderbilt has never seen great days like James Franklin gave them. Beating Tennessee. Well, Tennessee was down. He still beat them. There was times that Tennessee was down before, and they'd still beat Vandy. Now, in between, a lot of people loves to overlook this. I'm not going to let you overlook it. In between Joe Paterno and that whole scandal and James Franklin, there was someone between there, and his name is Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien was the one who took over the crapshoot up there. James Franklin took over it, and yes, he had things that needed to get done, and he did get them to that point, but it became obvious he was not going to get you to a national championship. But at the same time, many things can be true, and one of the things is I see James Franklin doing very well at Virginia Tech. Do I see him pulling a Signetti? No. Do I see him pulling Virginia Tech together with all their transfer portal acquisitions? Well, it was out of Penn State. Okay, good. Oh, all right. He has a good portal class from what I can remember. Virginia Tech's going to be a problem. They may not win the conference, but they're going to be a problem. And this is the perfect role for James Franklin. And I believe that Clemson will lose to Virginia Tech. Why? More talent across the board. It's very interesting that Brent Pry, who was fired from Virginia Tech this year, Get this. This is crazy. Brent Pry, follow the coaching tree here. Brent Pry worked for James Franklin as a defensive coordinator at Penn State, leaves Penn State, becomes the head coach at Virginia Tech for the past 3 years or something like that. Got fired by game 4 or 5 or something like that. He's gone. James Franklin gets fired at Penn State, comes down, takes the job at Virginia Tech. James Franklin turns around and hires Brent Pry, who was just the head coach at Virginia Tech, as the defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. If you're confused, I don't blame you. How crazy is that? I see Virginia Tech winning this ball game. All right, now Clemson goes to Florida State on Halloween. That's the very next week. The very next week. They'll play at Florida State. Florida State is a mixed bag for me. And right now, Florida State is just trying to wait out this contract that they signed with Mike Norvell because they still owe him a lot of money. I've jokingly said that Mike Norvell could walk up and smack the president of the university's wife on the butt, and they could do nothing to him because they owe him too much money. And I still stand by that joke. That's how bad the buyout has put them in that position. And schools are going to continue to let these agents run things, and it's just going to hold your school hostage. They went to the transfer portal like everyone else. They've pulled in some decent players here and there. That Weissner kid the running back out of Texas, they pulled him in. They got Roydell Williams. They pulled him in. Samuel Singleton. But here's the deal. And they have Deuce Robinson coming back, the 6'6" wide receiver that transferred from Southern Cal. The big question is, who's going to play quarterback for them? I mean, at the end of the day, who's going to play quarterback for them? And can this person lead it? I'm pretty sure Castellanos is done. I can't remember, y'all. But even if he's not, I was telling everyone, listen, I don't know if that's going to be the answer for y'all. I see Clemson going to Florida State and potentially winning this game. I am not sold on what's going on at Tallahassee. And this is not a good old-fashioned Clemson versus Florida State. These are two shells of history playing one another. And so I see Clemson going to Florida State and actually playing up for this game. I see them playing up for this game and giving themselves a fighting chance. All right? And I'm going to swing right now that Clemson wins this ball game, but honestly, FSU could win this game as well. I think it's, again, former elite versus former elite. It looks good on paper. When the jerseys line up against one another, it looks good on paper. But at the end of the day, it's not what it was. So I'm going to lean the Tigers taking the Florida State game. Next up, Clemson will play, and this is kind of where it's weird. They'll play against Syracuse at Syracuse the very next week, either on a Friday on the 6th or November 7th, which is the next day at Syracuse. Now, we know that Syracuse came to Clemson, and before Steve Angeli went down, they were ripping Clemson a new one. Angeli ended his season at Death Valley. The turf tore his ACL. And he was done for the season, and then Syracuse went into one of the biggest dive bombs I've seen in quite a while. But remember, they were beating Clemson by 20 at one point. Fran Brown has returned some decent players, but they have lost a lot of players as well. And the only hope that they have is that Steve Angeli will, in fact, rehab fully, because an Achilles tear is a nasty, nasty injury. It's quite awful. With that said, I think that Clemson goes to Syracuse. I think that they have a good old-fashioned fight. And I'm going to lead Clemson wins this ball game. I think Clemson beats Syracuse because Syracuse has lost a lot. The only asterisk there is if Angeli and a few people, he can stay healthy and they can have a nice connection. That would be nice. Their defense can kind of get stops here and there, may turn things around. But I'm going to lean Clemson gets this. Pause out. Pause right there. I want you to stop real quick. I want you to notice when Clemson starts to go on these runs towards the end of the season. In 2023, when Clemson lost 4 ball games, it was their first non-10 win season in years. They went on a run at the end of the season to make it look more respectable. This past season, 2025, they went on a run at the end of the season to make it more respectable. And I'm not trying to taunt anyone here, but what's kind of interesting to me is, and a lot of teams does this, it's just not exclusive to Clemson. They do this thing where they go out and they lose and they make themselves a loser. And then they start locking arms and going, the whole world's against us. And then they start doing something. That's what you were supposed to do in week 1. And especially since it keeps happening, if someone could get that fervor and heart and all that bunch of good stuff during this entire 8-month hiatus between now and September, which now it's more like 7 months in between now and September the 5th, Clemson would have a better season. But they have a tendency to get everyone mad at them and going, what the crap, man? And then we're going to show them. You can't get mad at your fans for going, guys, we're losing a bunch of games. So I see them winning this game at Syracuse. So 2 wins in a row. Georgia Tech comes to town. This is very interesting because I want to see the transition from the Haynes King-led Georgia Tech team to now who's ever going to be running things at Georgia Tech. Now, again, this I admit I'm still learning more about Georgia Tech. I know that they have Justice Haynes coming in, who's a big name at running back. But the question is, I can't remember who their quarterback's going to be. I know who the quarterback's going to be at Texas Tech. I know who the quarterback's going to be at LSU. Who's going to be the quarterback at Miami? Maybe I overlooked that, and you can call me out for it. I'm going to look it up as we speak. QB 2026. I can't remember who it is because that. It's Alberto Mendoza. He transferred in. The brother of Fernando Mendoza has transferred to Georgia Tech, and then Cole Bergeron, if I'm saying that correct, a 4-star prospect from Louisiana, committed. So that Philo kid, I think that was his last name, he transferred to Florida, if my memory serves me correct. Got a bunch of you in here. It's good to see a lot of you. Some of you, I won't say which ones it's not good to see. I'm just kidding. Just having some fun there. In the comments section, got Big John. Big John says, audio cable collection fund, contribute, folks. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for supporting on a monthly basis. You remember, I appreciate that. Big John, you're the man. It's good to see you in here. Thank you for supporting the channel. Who will be the Clemson quarterback? Robert Truesdale is asking that question. It's going to be Vizina. Roger Parks, thank you for supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Good to see you. Yes, it's going to be Vizina. David Massey says, audio. Tanya A. Danik says, listen, we see you and we hear you. Good to see you all in here. The real Jason Red, we can hear and see you. Good to see you, my man. Good to see you. A bunch of people in here. Marcus Parsons taking the gloves off. Yeah, Dabo's bunch of married kids get utterly humiliated by Kiffin the first game, paving the way for the Dabo resignation or retirement. There's a lot of people who's wondering about that. Garrett Riley said in Chalk Talk 2023, said screens get you out of a rut, but jailbreak screens, like Chad Morris talked about in 2013, work because he knows how to get the ball to his players. Good to see you, Gavin. A few more in here, and I'm going to get back to this. Clemson alumni 04 comes in hot. Miami has the stars that Clemson wanted, but we refuse to pay. So very good question. James Scott, unfortunately, Clemson just hasn't been the same since Venables left for Oklahoma. Yeah, I agree. A lot of any more in here? I see 10 teams that have desire to prove themselves. We can easily be 7-5 again, but hope so we don't poop ourselves against crap teams like Syracuse, VT, Duke, and NC. It's good to see y'all in here. Thank you so much. Going to get back to this. So I left off on Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I really don't know what to think about them. I believe Brent Key is a really good coach. And I believe overall his team is going to bring they're going to bring they're always going to come in and play really solid football under him. With that said, I see Brent Key pulling it together and beating Clemson. I think that he will get his team playing up for this ball game. I think this will be a solid, potentially rebuilding year for Georgia Tech. But I think Georgia Tech plays up for Clemson. I still think that he looks at Dabo Swinney as someone to beat. And I think that he will take that opportunity as long as we're in the place we are in college football. Because it looks good on paper, Georgia Tech beat Clemson. Because Clemson has been hammering them for years. 4 years up until this walk-off field goal they hit with time expiring, right? Which is one and the same thing. Anyway, you get where I'm going there. But I believe Georgia Tech beats Clemson. Let's move on to Duke. They lost Aaron Mensah. They lost Barkay. And I know that they just won the ACC championship. By the way, the rules change if my memory serves me correct. So if Duke would have won the ACC championship this coming season, they would have to go to the college football playoff, no matter their record. They lost Cooper Barkay. They lost Mensah, and I am telling you, Darren Mensah was that good. And you saw it in Death Valley, whether you wanted to or not. I think Clemson gets revenge on them. I think that Clemson beats Duke at Duke. I think that they get a win there, a much-needed win. And it just feels like, unless something twisted happens, at this point where I'm at, I just see Duke not being able to recover from that. When you have a really good quarterback, you can win ball games that you would otherwise lose. And yes, a team is more than a quarterback, but a really good quarterback can get you out of some pinches. It really can. I go back to my comments a little earlier. I would feel better if Sam Levitt was dressed in a Clemson Tigers jersey versus an LSU Tigers jersey. I wouldn't believe that Clemson would compete for a national championship, but I think that Clemson would win more ball games. You have to fear a guy like that. Fernando Mendoza came in clutch over and over with his wide receivers, made the catches. Yeah. That's what wide receiver's supposed to do, and the quarterback's supposed to get the ball near them. There's a lot of quarterbacks who can't get the ball near them. So, losing that, I see Clemson beating Duke. And then we play South Carolina. This is a tough one to pick. Shane Beamer made some firings and made some hirings. Okay. He retained Dylan Stewart. I was shocked at that. He retained Lenoris Sellers. South Carolina is a mixed bag to me. Their talent is a mixed bag to me. Us versus them is a mixed bag now. If is not reality anymore, if this were a 2017 Clemson team with Kelly Bryant leading it, but you had all those athletes, I'd say we beat the South Carolina team. Yeah, beat them. And we would beat them. This was a Taj Boyd led football team with that talent around. Oh, we'd beat this South Carolina team. But part of that dealt with the coaches. And so this game with South Carolina is very much a toss-up for me at this point. I believe that Clemson and South Carolina, I'm going to leave it at a toss-up, and I won't give you my prediction for it right now. Because I think that I could flip a quarter and pretty much get it right. Or have the chance of being just as much right as wrong. That's where I see both of these teams. And so, am I taking the out? Yeah, I am. I don't want to call it right now. I really don't. And if I'm a Gamecock fan and I'm listening to that, you should understand that's a bad thing for both of us. You have Dylan Stewart, Nick Harbor, and Lenoris Sellers. Okay. Have to have more than 3 players playing on the football team. Clemson has Sammy Brown. Clemson has Will Helt. They have Morin Wesco and Bettenker if you'll use him. But you got to have more than those guys. So I'm going to leave that there. I was not planning on doing that, but as I looked at that game, I said, hey, it's my show. I'll do what I want to. I'm going to leave that game. It's a toss-up. Anyone could win this ball game. So let's recap. LSU is a loss. Georgia Southern's a win. North Carolina's a win. Cal's a loss. Miami's a loss. Charleston Southern's a win. Virginia Tech's a loss. Florida State's a win. At Syracuse is a win. Georgia Tech is a loss. Duke is a win. South Carolina's a toss-up. So I stopped at 6-5. Where could I be wrong? Where could I be wrong on pretty much any game I call? I know you're like, wow, boy, that's not taking the easy way out. No, really. Other than Miami and LSU is a definite for me. They're definitely losing those ball games. And I'm just saying, I'm saying this. You can disagree with me all you want to. And by the way, we're talking about football. It's not important in the grand scheme of things. I'm not trying to burn bridges here. I'm not trying to be a jerk. Clemson's football team is so deficit in talent. And we're all thankful for what Dabo's doing, calling out Ole Miss with the obvious tampering, and that needs to be dealt with. And I agree with every word he said, and I agree with what he proposed to fix the situation. I agree 100% with him on that entire thing. I agree with him. He nailed it. I'm all in with him there. This football team is not focused on winning. It's not. And after the Penn State loss, we heard from our coach, we're trying to win the right way. We were trying to do that when we won before we won a national championship. We're going to win the right way. That was a standard. Now it seems like, well, if we lose, that's the reason why. And I say this with no disrespect. It doesn't have to be that way. I just don't think it has to be that way. Anyway, North Carolina game. I see Clemson winning that ball game. I really don't see North Carolina beating them. Virginia Tech, I could definitely be wrong there. James Franklin may need more time. Clemson pulls that one off. Well, that would give you a 7th win. Florida State, I said we would beat them. Georgia Tech, I said we would lose to them. That could be game number 8 that you win. South Carolina, I'm serious, y'all. I really don't know what to think about South Carolina. Like there's games I'm looking at right here and I'm like, Georgia Tech, Clemson loses. LSU, they definitely lose that. North Carolina, yeah, I think Clemson. Cal, maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe that's win number 9. South Carolina, I don't have a clue. So right now I'm sitting at 6-5. Let's run a few different scenarios. Clemson wins the South Carolina game. They're 7-5. They win the Cal game, or they win the Virginia Tech game. They're 8-4. They lose the South Carolina game. They're 6-6. So where I see the trajectory of this football team is somewhere between 8 wins. I'm talking about achieving a national championship type run, but you're not achieving that. The type of expectation. Clemson maybe wins 9 ball games. That's like not the best, but like the very best, top of the ceiling. We brought a demo crew in. We cut out the ceiling and we raised it. That would be 9 wins for Clemson. 6-6. I can't say that would be the worst that Clemson could do, but I'm looking between 6-6 and 7, or 6-6 as bad. I'm looking more along the lines of about 7-5 for Clemson for this 2026 season. Again, I gave you my reasons. And hopefully I eat crow. I'm going to get in here into the live chat, say hello to a few people. Jim Wright, why doesn't Dabo get the quarterback thing and will put Vizina out there to be sacrificed and lead us to another 6-7 season, and Dabo finding another situation, it's over? Interesting. I think we win. Isaac Smith says, I think we win 8 regular season games. Wouldn't be surprised if it's 7 or 9. Anything above 9 or below 7 regular seasons would be surprising, in my opinion. I think it's a good take. I think it would be nice to get a Clemson Ole Miss bowl game. Folks, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think Pete Golding will be the coach at Ole Miss within the next 5 years. I don't believe so. Oh, because he's going to get fired for tampering? No. Because Ole Miss is going to find out that the magic was in a guy who wears a visor who now head coaches down at LSU. They're going to find that out real quick. First time around, did you have South Carolina as a toss-up game? Well, Jason, I didn't make it that far. I got about 3 games in. Yeah. So I didn't get to call it. Good to see you here, Austin Burrell. I don't want Dabo fired. I admire him as a person, but if Clemson has another season like this past year and finishes 7-5, do you think Dabo will be on the hot seat? No. People are going to say stuff. People are going to be upset. Nothing's going to happen to him. And I say this towards the fans and the administration more than I even say this towards Coach Sweeney himself. Clemson fans have proven to me that they have a loser mentality. They won, and now they feel like, well, okay, it's okay to lose. You know, all good things come to an end. And the moment that you tell them they're about to go 7-5, they get a little irritated and so on. This fan base has become no competitiveness. And their response to that, well, it's because we appreciate what he did. I think that you show more respect to someone by looking at them and saying, I believe you do have more championship ball left in you. I just don't think it's going to happen with the same coaching staff that gave you 7-6 with a roster that had a ton of talent on it. 7-6 should have never happened with that team. You could argue with me all day long that they were never a national championship contender, and I would concede to you. I'll say, okay, yeah, that's fine. 7-6, 7-6. No. There's a lot of hard decisions that are going to have to be made. And if they were made overall for Clemson's coaching staff, they would have been made the Monday after the South Carolina game. And I just don't see it being that way. And listen, folks, all we're going to do is, in 5 years, we're going to be sitting there going, oh, no, you mean 10 years has passed by since we had yep. Time's just rolling. And as time moves away from your success, you move away from any relevance that you had. So anyway, that's my thought. But nothing's gonna. I don't want him. I don't want him to be fired. I want him to get back to what made him successful. So. I like this. Clemson and SC will be determined by which team is beat up and worn out by the time we play. I like that. I think we beat USC. Let me see. Any more people in here? I believe with the tampering issue that has happened, has woken the competitive spirit in Coach Dabo again and will be better prepared for this season. I hope. Good to see you, Joe Hughes. I think we lose to LSU and Miami and have one other loss somewhere and finish 9-3 and improve season, but we still have a lot of potential on the table. We'll see. All right, folks. Who's ready to go play in the snow? Maybe I'm going to go play. I don't know. I do know that someone will be getting pelted by a snowball very, very soon. And I will be the one who's throwing it and probably receiving a return pelt. So anyway, hope you all will stay nice and warm, stay safe. Yeah, this is really, really good stuff. We're not used to this in the upstate of South Carolina. For anyone outside of this area, you're like, well, what's the big deal? We always get sleet and rain and a little bit of snow. So it's always the dangerous stuff. I love when I hear people from other states going, y'all don't know how to drive in the snow. That's the thing. It's not snow. Today it is. So we can actually drive in it. So anyway, y'all take care of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure that you've subscribed. It is free. It's flipping free. So I'm getting close to 10,000 subscribers. Help get me there. And also pass it along on all your forums and all that good stuff. Facebook, let everyone know about it. And go check out section 103. The link is below this video to pick up a polo, a pullover, a hat, whatever for you, your wife, your kids. I'm telling you, you'll thank me. And don't forget about that 10% off promo code right below this video. It's a one-time use, Tigers10, to get 10% off your order. You will thank me. Hey, folks, tell me where I'm right. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I should go jump off a bridge with this way too early prediction. It will be very interesting to see how my prediction changes or stays the same or whatever right before the season when we have more info about the teams across the board and get a little more information coming out of all these different team camps to figure out who's the starter, who's not, who's injured, who's suspended, all that bunch of good stuff. Georgia Bulldogs.